You know, when you're watching a pro esports match, you see the insane skill, the perfect teamwork, the massive stadiums. But behind all those bright lights and roaring crowds, there's another war being fought. A silent digital battle for money, for data, and for the very soul of the game itself. All right, let's jack in and explore this hidden arena. So, what are we really talking about here? What's at stake? Well, we're talking about a global esports market that's worth over $4.3 billion in 2024. Yeah, this is not just a hobby anymore. This is a massive global industry. And that kind of money, well, it paints a very, very big target on its back. And here is just how big that target is. A jaw-dropping 37% of all global DDoS attacks, the ones that just flood servers with garbage traffic to knock them offline, are aimed directly at the gaming industry. Just let that sink in. More than a third of these attacks, all over the world, are targeting games. So when you mix that much money with that constant level of threat, what do you get? You get a high-stakes digital battleground. Every single esports event becomes a front line, and the fight against cybercriminals is often just as fierce as the competition we see on screen. So why is this industry such a juicy target for attackers? Well, it pretty much comes down to a few key things. First, the cash. Prize pools for a single tournament can top $40 million. Second, the loot. A single virtual skin for a weapon can sell for over 100,000 real-world dollars. And finally, you've got the data. Millions and millions of user accounts, each one a little treasure chest of personal info. Criminals know that even the tiniest disruption can swing a championship, and they are always ready to cash in. Okay, so that's the big picture, but this war, it isn't just fought between giant corporations. It gets personal. It's a battle that targets every single gamer out there, from the weekend warrior to the top-tier pro. Let's take a look at how these attacks hit us on an individual level. Attackers, they've got a whole toolkit to try and get inside your digital life. You've got phishing scams, promising free gear, and they are literally everywhere. That cool new cheat software you might be tempted to download? Oh yeah, it's often packed with malware that's designed to steal everything. And simple social engineering, someone pretending to be a tournament admin on Discord, is shockingly effective. But maybe the biggest threat is something you might be doing right this second. And that threat is called credential stuffing. It's the direct result of reusing passwords. Here's how it works. Some other website gets hacked, right? Criminals grab those leaked email and password lists. Then they use armies of bots to just try those same combos on gaming platforms like Steam or Epic. It's an automated guessing game, and it works. This one method is responsible for over 12 million gaming account takeovers every single year. It is a huge problem, all fueled by one bad habit. So how do you fight back? What's your best defense? Easy. Multi-factor authentication, or MFA. But, and this is super important, not all MFA is created equal. At the absolute top of the list, you've got physical hardware keys. These are basically phishing-proof. Just below that, Authenticator Apps and push notifications are also really strong choices. But look at the bottom of that list. SMS codes. They are vulnerable to all sorts of attacks, like SIM swapping. So the takeaway here is simple. If you are still using text messages for your security, it is time to upgrade, like today. Look. Protecting your own account is one thing, but what happens when the attackers decide to aim higher? What happens when they decide to try and take down an entire multi-million-dollar tournament right in the middle of a live broadcast? Just chew on this for a second. The gaming industry has now passed the financial sector as the #1 target for these kinds of attacks. We're talking more attacks than banks. And the goal here isn't always just chaos. It can be extortion, it can be about manipulating betting markets, or sometimes it's just about the bragging rights of taking down a huge event. And the impact is just devastating. For a major tournament, we're talking about a cost of over $100,000 for every single hour they're offline. And since the average attack lasts between 30 and 60 minutes, that damage adds up incredibly fast. But what's really scary is the frequency. These attacks are up 400% year over year. That's not just growth, that's an explosion. But there's another kind of threat, one that doesn't just take a tournament offline, but instead it rots it from the inside out. It's a threat that strikes at the very heart of competition itself. Of course, I'm talking about cheating. The cheater's toolkit these days is seriously sophisticated. You've got aimbots that give you perfect accuracy, wall hacks that let you see enemies through solid objects, and scripts that completely erase weapon recoil. These tools don't just give someone an unfair edge, they completely disrespect the skill and the thousands of hours of dedication that define what it means to be a pro. So how in the world do you fight this? Well, this leads to a huge debate in the gaming community about how anti-cheat software should even work. On one side, you have these really aggressive kernel-level systems like in Valorant. They are super effective because they operate at the deepest level of your computer. But that deep access also comes with some serious privacy questions. On the other side, you've got less intrusive user-level systems like in CS2. They're better for your privacy, but they're just not as good at catching the really advanced cheats. It's this constant trade-off, security versus privacy. How much are we willing to give up to guarantee a fair game? Okay, so we've seen account takeovers, tournament takedowns, and widespread cheating. It all sounds pretty bleak, right? Well, now let's flip the script. How does the industry actually fight back? Let's open up the defender's arsenal. The core strategy is a cybersecurity principle called defense in depth. And the idea is actually pretty simple. You never, ever rely on just one thing. You build layers of security, like an onion. You start at the perimeter with things like DDoS protection. Then you secure the internal network. Then you protect the machines themselves. Then you secure the game application with anti-cheat. And finally, you protect the data. That way, if an attacker breaks through one layer, there's another one right behind it, ready to stop them. And behind all this technology, there are people, lots of them. Big gaming companies run 24/7 security operations centers. We call them SOCs, with teams who are constantly on the lookout for attacks. They use threat intelligence to try and stay one step ahead of the new cheats, and they have detailed response plans for when things inevitably go wrong. But you'll notice that last point, player education. Because at the end of the day, the human element is so often the weakest link in the entire security chain. And all of this brings us to the future. Because this isn't a battle that's just going to be won one day. It's a constant evolving arms race between the attackers and the defenders, with the future of competitive gaming really hanging in the balance. But you know what's fascinating? This constant battle has actually created a whole new field of really cool, high-demand careers. You've got security analysts on the front lines, anti-cheat engineers who literally reverse engineer the latest hacks, and incident responders who are basically digital firefighters. This isn't just a problem that needs fixing. It's a massive career opportunity for the next generation of gamers and techies. And it's worth pointing out the deep insights in this explainer are based on course material from the Sporte Esports Education Academy. They're one of the groups actually training that next generation of pros to fight this exact battle. Which brings us to our final lingering question. Every single time the defenders build a higher wall, the attackers just find a longer ladder. Every new anti-cheat system is eventually met with an even more sophisticated hack. So when we look at this multi-billion-dollar industry that's under constant siege, you really have to ask yourself, in this relentless cybersecurity arms race, who is actually winning?
Sporte है तेरा जवाब